Well, good morning, everybody. As you watch this animation of current lightning strikes early this morning, I want to give you a quick rundown of today's forecast video. We need to keep an eye on the severe weather that's going to continue into the weekend and early next week as a pretty potent wave kind of comes through California this weekend and ejects into the plains. But after that, we are going to see some, I think, much more wide open planting windows while possibly more storms settle into Texas, which could be important for week 2. We're going to talk about the temperature pattern and the frost risk coming up, which continues to be very minimal for this time of year. I still don't see any major outbreaks of cold air that could hit key growing areas. That would be a very, very late frost event. But I also want to kind of get into what this recent precipitation pattern's done to our drought monitor, which has reduced it by about 5% total area in the lower 48, and see what our soil moisture recoveries look like. We're going to stretch this out as long as we can in terms of trying to figure out how far into May we can predict the pattern. The European model continues to go on a drier stretch into the month of May for a broad area of the central United States. And we'll take a look at those temperatures as well. We're going to finish up with a look at the newest CFSV2 long-range outlook for summer. It's not a model I'm trusting right now at all. And I'll give you at the very end just a bit more about South America as they've work their way toward the end of their safrinha crop. So Matt and I have had this discussion all week that when you look at the satellite data, the radar data, or the lightning data, which you're looking at here, and he didn't give us the date, we'd say the same thing. It looks like midsummer, right? We just get this widespread, mostly disorganized convection. In other words, if you looked at this, you wouldn't be able to just pick out immediately where there are fronts, big boundaries that are dominating the flow. And instead, the satellite data just yesterday showed, a mess, right? I mean, just big, overall disorganized convection. Now, there is a broader system that's moving through the midsection of the country. That's your clue that it's still spring, all of this cloud cover. But some of the convection has just been impressively deep. And earlier in the week, I don't know if you saw it when I tweeted it out, but there was this outflow that came out of the storms here in western Texas that created what's called a haboob, a big dust storm that moves in this direction. Now, many of you that are down there know these things very well, but some around the country have never seen one. They're impressive, to say the least. All right, so when we see the satellite data looking something like this, and we see where some of these bigger storms have formed, I just wanted to show you a week's worth of hail data. And as we kind of look around the country here, going back all the way to Good Friday, we're looking at just numerous areas that have had very, very large hail. And just recently, some of the storms that have been in Texas, well, they've returned some moisture, have put down some, everything from golf ball to grapefruit size hail. I mixed my descriptors there. I guess I should have said golf ball to softball size hail. But you can see just a lot of it, a lot of severe hail. And I wanted to give you some stats on the year just so we can kind of keep track of these. So I'm over at the Storm Prediction Center's website. In terms of tornadoes, 617. We just added 17 yesterday from the severe weather outbreak. We should be at about 410 if we're looking at the historical averages. On the hail side of this, we're sitting right on average. You can see that the trend line and where we currently are, right at the same number. Wind reports, we're still about double what is historical average, and it's just been an incredibly windy year, a very, very windy spring, which we've talked about in these videos. And I think, thankfully, some of that wind issue is starting to calm down. Now, the reason for that is that we're beginning to lose our north-south temperature gradient. In other words, we're kind of wiping out the heat that's in the south versus the cold that's in the north, and instead seeing just more uniform temperatures. And that's going to be important for a lot of things, which we're going to come back to in a few moments here. I do want to show you the latest radar data, just starting late last night, going through early this morning, and just widespread thunderstorm activity. I mean, parts of Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin have seen multiple days of this. Same thing for parts of Texas. We've seen scattered storms in the southeast as well. And we do know that there's quite a bit more that is coming with the current setup in this pattern. So I want to show you just real quick right across the top our next 3 days for severe weather. So this is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So again, today we're going to watch where that dry line has backed itself up to the west. That's been a theme that we've talked about all week. We've been able to open Gulf moisture very far back to the west here. So that's our area under our slight risk today. Tomorrow, Saturday, a bit calmer in terms of overall risk, but then as we get into Sunday, we're going to watch Sunday into Monday and Tuesday light up this region right in through here. And you can see that on our Storm Prediction Center website maps here. This would be this is day 4, so this is really Monday night is what we're looking at here. The risk of severe storms in this area. And then day 5, the boundary stretches out. So this is going to go from New York all the way to Texas. So pretty large area under the gun for the risk of severe weather getting into early next week. And this has been pretty well forecast by the models. What I think is happening, though, is that after this, getting into May, we're losing some predictable skill simply because of the way that the upper level pattern is shaping up. So I'm not sure why I had this slide up, but let's just go right on to the next one and show you this. There we go. This is the next big push in the atmosphere to give us severe weather. It's going into California today. What's interesting about this trough is that it's actually got two pieces to it. There's the deeper closed low, and there's the short wave that's out ahead of it. And the setup with all of this is going to be such that we're going to drive this trough through the southern Rocky Mountains, and that's kind of a key area to get a trough to eject. And as this trough comes through, in fact, let's just watch it here on the earth.nullschool.net website. So this is later on today, getting into tomorrow. Watch the wave come through California here. I'm just stepping through this, and then comes right over the southern Rockies. And that's it. That is the type of setup we're looking at, because this is going to give us this wind shear profile that will deliver, this large region in through here under the risk of severe storms. So if you just take a look, the upper level winds are coming pretty fast like this, but the low level winds look something like that. So they're coming around this larger Bermuda high, which has parked itself over the southeast, and we're going to set ourselves up with a highly sheared environment with a tremendous amount of moisture coming up out of the Gulf, which will destabilize the atmosphere and it'll pop. And there is a low to the north that's going to help give us a boundary. There's going to be a cold front right in through here that'll match up with a dry line down there, and then out ahead of this, we're going to see this warm front. That's probably not exactly where it is at the surface, but somewhere in that vicinity on which we could watch these storms ride. Again, this is out there on the 28th is what you're looking at right here. So if we see what this does in the models, let's kind of get a bigger picture here. There is something important to talk about, and Matt and I have been addressing this all week. We told you at the beginning of the week that the precipitation forecast that you're going to receive every day on either on my website or your favorite app, I don't care what you look at, they're going to bounce around a lot. And that was because of how disorganized, the pattern was and how dominated it is by convection, storms. So now as you look at it and see that system coming into California trying to move through, this has been an area that I've watched change quite a bit. It's this corridor right in through here. There were better predictions for this region to be wet, and we knew that we could get some wetter conditions across the northern tier of the United States. We knew that the southeast was going to be dry because of the prevalence of the subtropical ridge, the Bermuda High there. We had a pretty good idea that we're going to back storms up all the way to New Mexico, but it's this corridor in through here that I imagine you've seen quite a bit of flip-flopping, model run to model run, or every time you check your app. But that has been a region that's changed quite a bit. Now, what's interesting about this whole pattern is once we get out there fully into week 2, in fact, I'm all the way out to Saturday, May 3rd, we end up getting a lot of lower heights, lower pressure here with just take a look at the flow coming over the Pacific Eye there, and then not really diving. It just kind of bunches up again into a ridge. That's that northward displaced jet stream. So what this is possibly going to do going into next week is keep this area stormy and wet, but an area to the north of it a bit drier. We'll take a look at what this means east here in just a second as I show you that forecast map. So the week 2 precipitation anomalies show you trough, broader ridge, trough setting up here, cutoff low there, storms because of that cutoff low, but there's going to be a broad area in through here that will be both mild and dry, meaning we're going to open up some planting windows, I think, in a big way. Now, just as a reminder, go to agweather.com. In fact, maybe that's why I left this open here. I'm not sure. Whatever. There it is. And just pick out your location. I'm just going to pick Omaha. I don't know. And you can go out and look at the multi-model forecast. Just slide down here, click on ECM WFGFS NBM 10-day, and you can kind of start to see where the models are and are not putting down rainfall, and look for these windows, or if these total precipitation amounts are just acceptable to go, then you go, right? So I hope that you find that to be a pretty useful tool for you. Okay, so the details on this. Today we've got some wind coming out of New Mexico, a couple of patchy areas of morning fog. We can see the flooding still along the Mississippi. On the cutoff low, though, take a look. California's got winter weather advisories and strong wind outlook here for parts of Southern California into Nevada. I want to take you over to the high-res NAM and just kind of watch this setup, okay? This is starting at 7 a.m. Central Time on Friday. We're just watching these complexes of storms move through the eastern half of the country. All right, so there it is. I mean, it looks like southern Illinois through Indiana, Ohio is going to get a good drink out of this. More rain in Kentucky and Tennessee. Now, there are some places here that don't need another drop right now. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Jeff Nally. He's on the Cromwell Ag Radio Network, and he said there's still fields just underwater from the flooding earlier in the month. But what we'll watch here is that by tonight, our dry line backs up. So some storms here. The cutoff low is moving through. There will be embedded thunderstorms with this as well. And then you see what's left over from what just came through the Midwest getting off to the east. So this is through tonight into tomorrow. Look at the complexes of storms run through parts of Texas and Oklahoma as that low matures and leaves the northeast coast by Saturday afternoon. And then what we're waiting on is this. So there's a push of moisture this weekend on Saturday through the midsection of the country. But the biggest setup is coming in California. So you just kind of see the low spinning in California there. That is Saturday night, getting into Sundays when that thing ejects. Now, where it's going to go, I just want to kind of look at our 5 different models and compare them, because I want you to note that if you kind of blur your eyes and look at it, all of these models have now backed off on this kind of hole, although it's in different shapes based on which model you look at, but it's somewhere in that vicinity where we are a bit drier. We know the southeast is going to be drier in all of these. In fact, let's just zoom in. I'll pull up the WPC. We know the southeast is drier because of the ridge, but you can see this corridor in through here that is missing on this rain. And I'm really thinking hard about western Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, also sneaking into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. This whole corridor here, there's some drier areas in there that have to get some moisture. But southeast continues drier, southwest is drier, and the Canadian prairie kind of misses out on some of this initially as well. So let's go and have a look at it, just comparing 2 models, GFS left, European right. This is today's 0Z run. We've already seen this. So let's park this out there Sunday, early Sunday morning for some snow in the Sierra Nevada. Scattered storms on the backside of this broader high moving through the Great Lakes here. This is Saturday night into Sunday morning. And then we watch the low come out. There it is, Monday morning. Could get some snow around Yellowstone. Take a look at that low right there. That is what we're keeping an eye on. Strong winds to the south. This is Monday afternoon, evening. And that's what we're going to watch. It's pretty well matched up in the models as to where this is going to be. With the broader shield of precip on the backside hitting the Dakotas, which do desperately need this. And then as we play it forward, we get out there to Monday night into Tuesday morning. Watch, this is going to be what appears to be a pretty substantial risk on severe storms in this area. So please listen. Next Monday night, after this weekend, we got to watch this pretty carefully. We then go into Tuesday. The frontal boundary stretches out, so we're going to watch here on Tuesday afternoon and evening. There's our Bermuda high pumping the moisture into this. And then we get out there into Wednesday and Thursday, and this is where stuff just returns south a bit. See that? Wednesday, Thursday, we're down in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. And then we're going to watch the pattern shift a bit. Now, this is when we get into the broader ridge with the cutoff low here. So we're going to keep this area stormy. But there will be a drier stretch in through here that's going to allow a lot of field work to get done and some crop to continue to get planted into early May, especially when I show you what the temperatures are going to do. Precipitation-wise, probability in the next 10 days of grabbing an inch. Now we can even see the ensembles are finding this area that is drier. Very wet to the south, dry in the southeast. Canadian prairie is a bit drier, southwest is drier. Now if we just go look at those dry areas, I should get a model run reset. Oh, I didn't. I beat it. This is who has the probability of staying below, who has a probability of staying below ½ inch. And there it is. Here and there. Okay? So now we can kind of see that a couple of different ways. Okay, context. Here's the newest drought monitor. Yes, the total area in the drought monitor in the last month has dropped about 5%. Okay, the total area in D1 to D4 has dropped 5%. And you can see over here on this map where there's been improvement, where there's been degradation. I continue to be concerned about the southeast into Florida for drought development going forward, as you saw. We know that drought is anchored in the southwest, and even with some of the storms that have come through, they've been highly local in where they've delivered their rainfall. Drought is still in Mexico. We looked at that earlier in the week, and we can still see that the drought monitor shows, this whole area throughout the plains and northern plains in some stage of drought, even though there has been some improvement in that drought monitor picture recently. If we take a look at the last 14 days of total accumulated precipitation, though, I can really easily just identify, these areas here. Look at central Nebraska, parts of South Dakota into Minnesota, very, very dry. This region needed to be dry like this because we needed to dry out after the record rains we saw back in early April. But we're going to start to get to a point where we need the rain to come back. It can't stay off for too long. The drought that's in the southeast is quite prevalent, especially along the Gulf Coast into Florida. And it does not take long, given their temperatures, to reach high evaporation rates and cause major flash drought scenario here. And then you see the west. So the importance of this cutoff low coming through, it's bringing in some, late season moisture. What's interesting about moisture in late April and May is it can often be disruptive to agriculture in California. Moisture at this time of year can be a problem. But anyways, let's just have a look at this and then take a look at our statistics. So since the start of April, I've got literally just one state away. We go from, a top 20 driest start to any April to a top 2, top 3 wettest. And that has been where the Bermuda high, which is sat here, has just continued to pump moisture into this area. So we're just kind of looking at these stats and taking it in. Find your area, get your number, and then just make sure you kind of stick that in the back of your head. One last way to look at this is I wanted to show you the latest soil moisture from the beginning of the month compared to the end. We're going to look down at 16 inches. So this is 0 to 16 inches. And I'm just noting a lot of the dryness in this area being taken out. But still, look at this part of the mid-Atlantic here, Florida. And we still have our deficit in soil moisture north. Okay? So temperature-wise, we've now seen our precip pattern. Here's the next 7 days on frost risk. And again, that line is creeping farther and farther to the north. We're no longer seeing more widespread drought at lower elevation in the west. And there's nothing about this map that is not normal. Or even, I'll be honest with you, what's not normal about it is it's quite warm. Taking a look at the individual kind of upper level height pattern setup here from a single model run, our jet stream is way up here. There's our little cutoff developing over the next 15 days, but that is a larger ridge providing a lot of warmth across a big section of North America. We've had years where troughs like this sit over the Great Lakes, and that is where we sit on our hands and get nothing done. But as it stands, all of the coldest weather is, on the other side of the planet, over in Russia. So that's your big idea here on the pattern. So what it gives us is brief shots of cooler weather. So this is Friday, behind the front. We saw it earlier, right? So we go from Friday into Saturday, Saturday into Sunday. We rebuild all this warmth while the deeper trough comes through the west. That's when it's really sitting here. So that's cloud cover and rain driving all of this cooler weather. Cooler weather exits east, big warm up ahead of the severe weather outbreak that's going to happen Monday night. So this is where the Gulf is open, destabilizing the atmosphere. We just need to watch for where there could be a low-level cap in the atmosphere to slow down this convection. But mid-80s, in Iowa, followed by severe storms. Then the front passes, we drop the temperatures off 20 degrees the next day. This is next Tuesday into Wednesday, but it rebounds pretty quickly. And we look at these temperatures. The black numbers are the actual temperatures. I'm sorry, that's not right. I'll get that fixed, sorry. But, you can see it around the rest of the country. Very mild air. And we look out there longer term, and we just continue to see our models doing this. See where the jet stream is? It's up here where the contrast is, right there. And all of the models kind of have a similar picture. Nothing scary coming. So I was looking at this. We did this on Wednesday. Probability of going below 40. Not below 32, but below 40. I'm just looking for any cold air. So this is Sunday morning. Okay. Getting out there to Monday morning. Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning. This, again, not freezing. This is 40 degrees. Then we get out there, and I just keep playing this into the first week of May, and I have just such low probabilities of really cold air coming in. I'll tell you what, let's look right here. This is Sunday, May 4th. Now, that is the probability on Sunday, May 4th of getting to 40. Let's go look at 32. Okay. In fact, I pulled it up for Kalamazoo, Michigan. I was just looking for somewhere in there. And I just don't see, we get down into the mid-upper 30s, but there's May 4th. I'm just not seeing frost risk in these areas that can have frost. So take this as advice that I think we're going to keep it warm. And once you get out there past Mother's Day, it's pretty hard to get a frost if you are, I think if you're south of this line, That'd be my take on it. Okay, from there, let's talk about any sort of signal from the longer range. Now, you notice that Matt and I we've been trying to feel out what's going on at the MJO. The diagram is just telling us something's going on here. The longer range has just dropped it in there. You look at the upper level flow and you're like, okay, there's just suppression here. Is that why we're getting a phase 7? Because we're getting sinking motion there, so it looks like there's phase 7 rising here. I don't know. But I will tell you that the trade winds, we just take a look at the trade wind behavior. We don't even have there's not even a really strong, I can't pull anything out of this that makes a whole lot of sense in terms of what's going on in the trade winds. So then I start looking for other things, like what's the global wind doing? We still see the global wind oscillation is below that line, meaning that we have lower momentum. And we notice that over the next, this goes out to the end of May, we keep kind of a near average to below average momentum state, although the end of the model run starts to split up. And again, what I'm looking for here is that when you're on this side of the diagram, we just tend to have more circumglobal ridges versus troughs. Troughs make the pattern progressive and fast, ridges slow it down. So I look out there and I say, all right, what happened lately? Well, take a look at this. Since we got into mid-April, we have lost right here westerly momentum. So that blue is not cold. That's where the winds are more north-south than west-east. So we have stronger jet stream winds to the north. We've had this little subtropical component, Matt, I've been talking about here. What's kept the systems alive is that we've had stronger jet stream winds leaving the country because there's been a ridge right over where this blue is to the south. Let me show it to you. This is what it looks like. So there's your big Pacific ridge. There's the Bermuda high shifted. And so the net effect of these little waves coming through here have had a chance to eject and make storms. Now, if we lose any of this, which we don't think we are, we're not going to completely lose that just yet. But if this shifts around at all, we're going to change the pressure pattern, which ultimately changes the precip pattern. And I'm trying to see if the European model is giving me a real clue here on this. Let me show you this. Let's go to 30-day pressure anomalies. When I look out there through the month of May, my head just sees this. The model's going after higher than normal pressure, and it's keeping the lower pressure up north where the jet stream might stay. So a 30-day precip anomaly map through May looks like that. Now understand, a lot of this is coming in week 2. That's that. Remember I showed you the low that's going to sit here while the ridge goes over the top? That's not all of May. That's the beginning of May. So watch, if I get rid of the beginning of May and show you a little bit into June, let's just take it all, that's through June 9th. We just start to see a couple of areas that start to back off on rainfall. And we just need to know if this trend is real and keep watching it. Now, what can we attribute this to? I'm not sure. I'm trying to attribute it to a global wind loss and the fact that the momentum is transferred farther to the north. That's one thought. But the other thing is La Nina contributing? No. I mean, we talked earlier in the week about what was going on off the coast of South America, but over the next several months, we're looking at really INSO-neutral conditions. And so I want to give you this. I do not think that this gives us any information, any useful information. It's the new CFSV2. It was initialized during the time frame I just showed you, which is when we've lost any sort of dominant signal. So there's the May, June, July precip pattern. There's the June, July, August. It's still showing some corridor of drought development here, wetter east. But it's lost its stronger signals as we go through the rest of summer. So we just need to look at it, understand it's some new information, but I'm not going to put much into this. But we're at that time at the end of the month where we don't get a lot of new model runs, so I wanted to show you one at least. Okay, last thing I want to do is quickly look globally. Here's your 10-day outlook from the European model globally. Just take a good look at this. I am seeing a little dryness into Central Europe, also seeing it here around the Yangtze River. South America, though, let's go have a closer look at South America. Take a look at the last 30 days of precip. This is not drought developing. Now, it's been dry in Argentina, Uruguay, maybe pockets of southern Brazil, but we're doing fine here. And if you look over the next couple of weeks, let's just use the European ensemble. Take you all the way out there to 14 days. We continue to see dryness in southern Brazil, but a wet corridor in through here. That's been a very consistent theme in the model. I don't know if that dryness in southern Brazil is causing, I don't know what it's causing. Someone's watching me from Brazil today. Give me some commentary on this. But outside of that, I think that's where I'll wrap up this video. And we'll just keep watching it over the weekend. I'll talk to you Monday. Thanks.